I'm going to give you a story. This is an old one. When I started working on the Dan Patrick Show, been a long time. I took a break for a while and did some other stuff. But early in my days, we used to have Bill Murray on, not regularly, but here and there. Dan and Bill always had a good relationship. And so the Cubs 04, they're in the playoffs. And Bill Murray's filming a movie called Steve Zissou, The Life Aquatic. It was some movie that he was in like the Galapagos Islands, or I don't know where he was, somewhere in Italy. And so he came on the show and I picked up the phone and he goes, I go, where are you calling in from? He goes, I'm in like Malta or something. And he goes, yeah, I got a sat phone. And I go, oh, are you going to be able to watch the Cubs? He goes, no, there's no way to watch the Cubs. I'm like, how is that possible? He goes, I don't know. We can't get the Cubs games. And he was out of his mind miserable about it. Yeah. He's like talking to me about it. And he goes, do me a favor. Can you call me and give me Cubs updates? And I'm like, he goes, well, I don't even have the number on this phone. This is Bill Murray, 20 years ago. And I go, he goes, give me your number. So I give him my cell phone number. This seems like a bit. I feel like I'm getting played like a setup. Yeah. And I'm in my crappy apartment in New Haven, Connecticut, working on the Dan Patrick Show, sitting there by myself, eating like ramen noodles and drinking Miller Lite. And all of a sudden my phone rings and it's a 0114, some number. Yeah, Paul, Bill Murray, what's the score? He called every hour on the hour to get the Cubs score. And when it was going good, I would tell him it's going good. I had to tell him about the Bartman thing.
Hey, guys, great tasting, less filling, Miller Lite. You guys know the drill. It's Friday.
Crack them.
Some Millers.
Crack them.
The ground is all chunky ice. Like, it's just one of those Fridays where it's not going to be as good as a summer Friday beer, but
there's something to, like, you made it through. You made it home. And this is for me, this weather, this is a hunker down Miller Lite.
Yes.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's a worse Miller Lite.
No, it's
a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good.
They always hit.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's a taste you can depend on. No games, no gimmicks, just great beer for people who like beer. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. The official beer partner of the Chicago Bears. Go to MillerLite.com/stretch to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that they sell beer. Tastes like Miller Time Chicago. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right, welcome back to the Stretch interview episode. Today we are joined in studio by Dan Patrick Show producer Paul Pabst, friend of mine, Marian Catholic's finest. Paul, how are you?
Good. And Eddie, we got to get right into it before we get into topics, because I don't know if you guys know, kind of the path that Eddie started to end up here, I was lightly involved in. I went to Southern Illinois University.
So it's your fault.
Credit claim. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was visiting my school. I was doing something with the Daily Egyptian, the school paper, and I went back to Southern Illinois. What would that have been, 2014, Eddie?
That was 2013,
13
or 14, yes.
So I was at Alpha Tau Omega fraternity there, and Eddie was in that fraternity.
Yep.
And I stopped by the old fraternity house, and of course it smelled like everything. And Eddie walks right up to me, and he's like, "Oh, I know you from the show, and good to meet you." Really nice guy. We ended up spending like 8 hours drinking.
Yeah, because I was
lock the doors, keep them in here.
I was an intern for Barstool at the time, and I was only with her Barstool for like a year and a half at that point, because 13, 14 is kind of when I got involved. So you're like, all right, this guy's like kind of in the,
But I was really impressed because I thought you were looking for a job when you first talked to me, asked me about media stuff. And then you're like, well, I actually work for Barstool already. And I knew Dan Katz. I met Dan maybe a year earlier at the Final Four in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eddie and I kept in touch, and you did the stuff with the Stern Show.
Uh-huh.
And we've been, kept in touch ever since. But we went to some bar in Southern Illinois and did about a 7-hour session. It was a rough night because I was hanging with a college guy,
right.
And I was a post-college guy trying to drink like a college guy again. Big mistake.
You can't do that.
I think Eddie should have to go back to Southern and do that same thing now.
I would love to. Yeah. I would love to go back with you and Sylvie and do a whole thing.
Mark Silverman from ESPN 1000 was in my same class.
Wow.
At Southern Illinois, and we were in a communications building. I used to do like more newspaper stuff. He was more TV, radio, and he would walk around the hallways very intent, like he never blinked. And I was kind of like, this guy makes me a little nervous. And I did not know Mark. I didn't know Sylvie. I didn't get to know him until like my junior year, and we became casual friends. And then I ran into him a decade later at something in Chicago. We were in for the Dan Patrick Show. I go, that's the guy from Southern Illinois. That's Mark Silverman. And he walks up because I'm working for ESPN 1000. I'm like, and we've kept in touch ever since.
Yeah,
he's the best. Yeah.
I'm hosting with him today, so tune in to.
Are you filling in for Waddle?
Filling in for Waddle, yeah.
Sylvie, top notch dude.
So
great guy.
But yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Sticks. I think it's gone now, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
College bars, that's just how they do it. They just swap.
Where did you guys go to school?
Lake Forest College, so up north of Chicago. Yeah.
I went to the more renowned Division III school in the area, North Central College.
I know North Central. Decent basketball.
Football, they just won national championship again. That's
D3.
Football. It should be like they should bump up to D1. I think they dominate.
Just skip right past D2.
A lot of schools are, well, not a lot, but schools.
St. Thomas did that.
Thomas
they were in our
did
league
that.
for hockey, and now they're D1. I think
they're in like Butler's conference and Drake and that school.
Yeah. And they're
See, I'm kind of against it. I always like what North Dakota State did. They had a chance years ago, I think, to go Mountain West or Big 12 or both. And they said, no, we'll just keep rolling people in FCS. I still call it 1AA.
I do too.
Yeah.
Be the one game when the D1 team plays you that they don't want to see on the schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
They're the one school.
They are that. Yeah.
Shit.
Did they beat Iowa one year?
Oh yeah.
They beat a few
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah.
Maybe
Kansas State.
Kansas State, yeah.
I remember that one. Yeah.
I think that year over year they would probably be like right around the bottom third to the middle third of Big Ten schools.
Yeah, and
I think they would typically beat shitty Rutgers or whatever.
And what would that get them? They'd just be another run-of-the-mill team. College Game Day would never go to Fargo, but they went to Fargo, I think, twice.
Yeah, definitely twice. Yeah, definitely twice.
Yeah, they kind of just become Minnesota.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
That stadium, that's like a bucket list stadium for me. It's going to the
Fargo Dome?
Yeah,
I've been.
It looks so cool.
You been there?
Yeah, when I worked for the football team, we went there.
Southern?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We played them my senior year.
Was it?
It's cool.
Yeah.
But the day I went, I think I've told the story before. The day I went, usually they're mostly sellouts from what I understand. The day I went was the first day of hunting season.
So it's cleared out.
And
Camoed out.
No. It was from what I understand, like, I don't know how many people live in Fargo, whatever. Or in North Dakota, it'd be like
probably a couple hundred.
500,000, whatever.
Yeah.
Like 450 of them have their hunting license. So like it was not crowded.
Yeah.
I think I've been to Montana State for a home game. I went to Southern Utah University on a road trip, and there happened to be a home game. I love those FCS stadiums.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've had this debate with other people. If you got a head coaching job, this is for everyone, would you rather take a job like Utah State or Hawaii?
Oh, man. Top of my head, Utah State from the travel standpoint of it.
Travel standpoint, yes.
Good point.
Obviously, the opposite, you live in Hawaii.
Yeah. Be like being the, basketball coach at Pepperdine.
Yeah.
You got to be a great gig. You could see the ocean. You're probably not going to be that relevant ever.
No.
But if you win a tournament game every 6 years,
Yeah.
or get to the tournament every 6 years, that's a win.
University of Hawaii. Now you got me thinking.
No, I mean like football too, because that's
Football would be the easiest because
think
it's
so?
like once a week, like
Yeah,
at most.
Yeah, so
but
you're
like
talking the travel is
yes,
six nights a year.
it's a lot different.
Hawaii
So-
football back in the day used to be pretty good.
Yeah.
They had guys like Timmy Chang and Cole Brennan.
Yeah.
And they were like,
I went to the Sugar Bowl.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they used to be on at like 10:45
Yeah.
Eastern. After all the games were over, you'd be scanning like, I need one more game. I'm in hour 14 of watching college football. And then there would be Hawaii versus
BYU,
UTEP.
yeah.
UTEP would be flying out there.
Yeah, but it's a good debate, right? And that's no. I just picked Utah State as one of the teams over there. You could take your pick, Fresno, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you're like, would you rather be in sunny Hawaii but travel sucks, or would you rather be just a random mid-tier?
you can have good weather in the contiguous 48. So Chicago State's in their conference for baseball now, and Chicago State, literally, we're just talking about colleges. We were bad at North Central. I played baseball there when we were there, and Chicago State and Northwestern were both on our schedule my freshman year. Got rained out against Northwestern, which would have been cool, but they would have obliterated us. Chicago State, we slaughtered. And we were a bad Division III team playing a Division I team, and we slaughtered them. But now they're in that conference with Hawaii, and Chicago State uses Hawaii as a recruiting pitch. Like, hey, you're going to go to Hawaii this year.
Yeah, this is a funny one. When I was at Southern Illinois, I worked at the school paper covering the football team, and our team was pretty mediocre, and we played at Illinois, and Illinois was pretty good. I don't know if they were ranked, but they were decent. And our football team, Southern Illinois, was up 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. And this little sliver of SIU fans, which were hammered because that's what they do, and we were out of their minds. I was up in the press box going, I'm going to take a picture of the scoreboard. Lost 61-21. Gave up 61 unanswered. It was the game that Howard Griffith, the running back, had. He had like 11 touchdowns. Anytime you break Red Grange's record, you got a really good day.
That was the best, though, is we just brought up North Dakota State in that fashion. But when you went to that D1 school, it was always fun. Like my sophomore year was Illinois.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My junior year, we went to Ole Miss, which was
Oh,
sweet.
that's sick.
And then my senior year, we were supposed to do Mizzou, but they just switched to the SEC, so we went to Miami, Ohio instead.
Oh, very preppy. That's like that's where the Lake Forest kids go to college.
That's it. That is where they go.
That was like your safety school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah.
I had a lot of friends that went there. Yeah.
Yeah.
My sister went to Miami, Ohio.
So did my sister.
Preppy heaven.
Unbelievably preppy, but it was beautiful
Yeah.
campus.
Yeah.
It looked like if you're going to make a WB TV show about a college,
Yes.
you'd use Miami of Ohio's
Yeah,
campus.
perfect.
Everyone's named Trey.
The red
Lance.
brick. Yeah.
No offense.
Parker.
Yeah, a lot of Parkers.
Exactly. So what's going on, man? You're always here now. You're doing the show on The Score. I got to ask out of the gate, like you're being with the national guys, do they understand the magnitude of how much of a joke sports are in this town?
In Chicago,
Yeah.
it's interesting because you could be good. On the Dan Patrick Show, we kind of look at different cities and different topics. You could be a good team. You could be a bad team. You could be bland team. And you could be good, but not interesting. You could be bad and interesting. Like for us, the White Sox were interesting on the national show because of their level of futility this year. The Sox were so bad.
Yeah.
They were breaking records of like, they showed the team the record and it was in black and white, the clips. And so the Sox were actually talked about on the Dan Patrick Show. The Cubs, not so much because they were good and didn't really threaten.
There.
The Bears were
83
interesting.
wins, yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Bears were interesting the past 2 years because they had the number one draft pick twice.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes you relevant nationally, no matter what the team. Caleb Williams was very interesting. And then the more messy the Bears got in those last 10 weeks, the actually more we talked about it.
Yeah.
We discuss extremes on the Dan Patrick Show. If someone's really good or if they're really, really bad. The Bulls are in no man's land.
No man's land. Like you probably never talk about them.
No, because there's nothing neither interesting nor are they in danger of getting like a Wembanyama.
No.
So you put those things together and nothing's happening. They've got this coach who historically was great and just nothing's happening with the Bulls.
And that's not even an all-encompassing show either. There's NBA podcasts who don't even talk about the Bulls.
Again, like who's a bad team? Like the Washington Wizards. They're in play to get like Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
That makes them slightly interesting at the very end of the season if they're still at 12 or 13 wins. So extremes, I guess.
For sure. No.
Yeah, I mean, we don't talk about the Bulls, and they're not on TV locally here, so I haven't watched 1 second of them.
I'm going to the Bulls game on Saturday.
Okay.
Are you going with Sylvie?
I'm Sylvie Hugman. No, I have two high school friends who were just basketball fiends, and the Bulls were nice enough to say, come on by. So I haven't been to a Bulls game in a while. It's been a while, so I don't know if I'm going to get to play. I'm really hoping. I'd love to play.
Yeah, maybe.
I set a couple picks.
Yeah, Benny will pour some popcorn on you.
Yeah.
Be nice.
We can do
Where do you guys go when, like, I know you guys get tickets and access, but what's the place you still go to? Where I got to go, like May 20th, you got to go to the Cubs because the weather's breaking. What do you guys go to?
I live like a 10-minute walk from Wrigley Field, like right off of Southport we were talking about before. I probably go to, last 2 years I went to like 15 games.
Yeah.
So I still go to Wrigley. I still like Blackhawks. I'm a hockey guy. That's my favorite team.
Yeah.
I hate them so much, the way that they're running their organization, that I will still go to a handful of games. But my dad always had season tickets. I used to go to a ton of games, and I can't stomach it. So I go to games here and there, but it's not the same. I go there when I need to like be angry.
See, I'm getting back on my DePaul bandwagon. When I was a little kid, that was one of my favorite teams, and I'm going to DePaul tonight, and then on Saturday.
They got tonight?
They got St. John's.
Oh, there you
okay.
go. That's
It's Rick Pitino.
I would love it if DePaul got good.
that. Like Loyola. I was kind of behind Loyola.
That was fun.
It
was fun.
When I was in middle school, they had like Quentin Richardson
Yeah.
and Simmons and like Lindsey Hunter maybe as
Wilson Chandler.
Like, but they had a couple of tournament teams, and I think they might have made the Sweet 16 one year.
Eddie Curry was committed to them, I'm pretty sure.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. And
Glad they avoided that.
I mean, he would have been awesome there.
he would have been unstoppable.
I don't know. I'm
I'm
not sure.
kind
he
of
would.
mad they didn't, because then the Bulls probably don't draft that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I read a story about him that he was at Thornridge, and that's kind of my neck of the woods. I went to Marion.
Yeah.
He had a game where he scored 0 points, and he had like 3 rebounds. I was like, well, he clearly rolled an ankle. I was in the Sun Times. And I looked at the article, like he played 36 minutes and scored 0 points, 7 foot 270.
Yeah, it's not what you want. Usually
Yeah.
high school stats are like insane.
Yeah.
It's
Or is he unselfish and just trying to help his
Right.
team?
Yeah.
No, he should
I mean,
have.
Derrick Rose only scored 1 point in the
He
season.
should have averaged like 40 and 30.
Right.
Literally.
for real.
Right.
But it's great to be back. I brought my wife and kids back. They hadn't been to a Cub game in about 7 years, and we did the doubleheader. Eddie, you and I talked about this. We did the Cubs game on Friday. This was late September. They won. It was 70 degrees. It was that game that was like 2 hours and 9 minutes. It was like a
Oh,
record.
it's perfect.
Then walked around the city. They drained me over on Armitage Ave.
Yep.
On Saturday, took a beating on Armitage Ave, and then on Sunday we went to the Bears Rams. It was 70 degrees. That's where you and I ran into each other.
Yep.
But that was like a perfect doubleheader weekend, and I'm just starting to kind of work my way back here, spend more time here.
Yeah, no, I would say, to answer your question too, like opening day is still always.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious, right? We've done that the last 2 years, I think. That's always like a tent pole for sure. But other than that, it's like.
I mean, I boycotted the Winter Classic this year at Wrigley. I did it.
Were the ramifications felt on your boycott? Did it?
They didn't seem to care. They're still doing things the same way. But I was just like, I don't, what, I got to sit in the cold to watch another terrible game? Like, I'm not doing it.
Hey, guys, this podcast is sponsored by Roe Sparks, Chief. 2-in-1 prescription treatment for stronger, harder erections.
Brother, they work.
Yeah?
Couldn't confirm. Tried it out. And you just put it under your tongue, these little sparks. And 15 minutes, you're ready to go.
How hard are we talking?
Dave?
Like bamboo wood hard?
You're talking
like diamond hard?
Diamond.
Diamond. I think that's the hardest you can be.
A girl's best friend has a diamond, I once was told.
I like that. Roe stays active in your system for up to 36 hours, so you can go back to back, round after
Confirm.
round. Oh, confirm.
Confirm.
Whoa.
Confirmation.
Back to back.
Like that.
To back.
Yeah, you got to be prescribed. Okay, so if you're prescribed, new sexual health patients get $15 off Sparks on a recurring plan. Connect with the provider at roe.co/stretch to find out if your prescription Roe Sparks are right for you. That's roe.co/stretch for $15 off your first order. Go check it out.
Not doing it.
And it's frustrating when you get Bedard because you're like, okay, you got this guy. He's supposed to be once a generation. He's putting up stats.
He's fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't watch enough to be an expert like you guys, but it just seems frustrating when you have a talent and you have a chance to surround him. Like the Bears, they have a talent. They better get their act together fast.
Yeah. Bedard's a hot button issue on the show.
Yeah, and on like the internet in general because they did bill him, you're right, as this once in a generation. I think it was a little bit overhyped. I think he's like that next kind of tier of star, which is great, good guy to have, but he's not a Connor McDavid.
Yeah, that's clear. Yeah. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Bears, you hope. What'd you think? Did you see today? They said they're raising season ticket prices by 10%.
I would have not done that because you had a good month going. You were winning January, February. I know money's everything, but if you're the Bears, why don't you go the opposite and say we're freezing ticket prices? Imagine the PR boost it would have been. I know you lose money because the place is going to be full, but you won January if you're the Bears. Mm-hmm. You got Johnson. You won. Everything's been great. Nothing but good stuff in the past 6 weeks. You won the offseason early. Yeah. Nobody thought you were going to spend on a coach up to $12.5 million. I thought the Raiders were going to snag them. Instead of raising ticket prices, announce you're freezing them for the next 2 years. Or how about this? Announce you're freezing them until you make the playoffs. That's how you get good PR.
Very good.
It'd be great PR, but then if it's like you look up and it's 2035 and you haven't made the playoffs.
But then everyone that is in charge should be fired. Eddie, I had a rule on the Dan Patrick Show years ago. If you own a sports team and they do not qualify for the postseason for a decade straight, you must sell. Because that means you haven't done your job. If
sign me the fuck up.
Sign me up. Because if you owned the Cubs and they did win the World Series, all is well. You have a lifetime hall pass if you own the Cubs. Even though there's things I don't like what they do around the building. But if you own the Bears and you don't get a playoff appearance for 10 years, and I don't think the Bears have had that, you got to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had your chance. A decade? It's not hard. It's not hard to make the playoffs.
When was the last time they won a playoff game? It was like 2012?
2000.
Caleb Haney?
Caleb got 2010.
Caleb Haney won.
Yep, before they went to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, lost to Packers.
That'd be a good rule. The one thing about the Bears, I'm a big draft guy, is that I don't think a lot of people said at the time, I don't like last year's draft. And doesn't mean I don't like a Dunze. That's different. But the strategy they used on last year's draft really bothered me, both at the time and still bothers me. You take a Dunze over Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the best tight end prospect in 10 years. Now, you can say, we have Cole Kmet. Super. Cole Kmet's not Brock Bowers. He's like a B+.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet's a fun player.
A very, very nice, tough player when it works. You get Brock Bowers. And by the way, I go to Yale games. I would never take a player for Yale in the first 4 rounds. That's a natural project.
Yeah.
He might have been great in the Ivy League. You take a offensive lineman from Yale, that's a project pick and a risk pick because he went to Yale. Odunze is a very good player. I don't think there's anything wrong with him, but the concept of passing on Brock Bowers, imagine a one-back, two-tight-end offense with
That's my
Kmet
favorite
and Bowers.
offense.
Yeah, well,
It's my favorite style of offense because you can do everything.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
And then, as much as you have the best punter in the league, that's great. It's really cool. He seems like a good guy.
Was he this year though?
He was effective.
He was there.
Yeah.
The upside for a punter is only this much. You have a responsibility that first year to build around Caleb Williams, and they didn't do it last year. I thought that was an irresponsible draft.
Well, credit to you for recognizing that in the moment.
Yeah.
Because
None of us did.
I was like, great punter. Guy's Australian. I love it.
I'm talking about Rome. Like, we all had the rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't like Rome. But
And I'm not patting myself on the back with this, but I'm saying I thought Odunze, when they drafted him, believe me, I was like, oh, that's awesome. But it's like, Brock Bowers is sitting there.
Yeah.
And that bothered me a little bit. And the punter, I was like, I watch a lot of Iowa football, weirdly, so I saw a lot of Taylor. But I wasn't big on that pick.
Yeah. They also just didn't use the tight end position at all this year.
A lot of times
so
they didn't,
Cole was not a factor in the offense, and then they signed Gerald Everett. I think he had 6 catches on the entire year.
It's funny. I liked that pickup when they got
So
him.
did I.
I didn't get it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't remember where I heard this. It might have been a Sylvie thing. But Cole Kmet, when they found out like how the offense was going to be, asked for a trade.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So because it was like the writing was on the wall that he was just not a part of the offense.
Oh, this is the first I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I think I heard that about 2 months ago, Sylvie, right?
Yeah. Something. Yeah.
But if you look at what the Lions did with Sam Laporta, if I'm
Yeah.
Cole Kmet, I'm like, fantastic.
Yeah. Great.
They're very similar players too.
Yep.
Yep.
Like receiving before blocking. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think us, and we've talked about this a lot, is what scares us about Johnson the most is that team, construction-wise.
Beautifully constructed.
It's great.
Right.
Right.
Panay Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, Sonic and Knuckles. Like, it all works.
But if you look at what they did a couple years ago, when they took in the first round, they took Jahmyr Gibbs about 20 picks earlier than he should have gone out of Alabama.
Yep.
And they took Jack Campbell, the linebacker,
Yep.
about a round earlier. If you go back and look at that draft, they got lit up for their strategy.
They got
Killed.
torched.
Yeah.
Torched. And people are like, at the D draft, you took two guys who were 20 picks. You could have traded down twice and got both of them. Both are serious starters, and Jahmyr Gibbs is probably
He's a top 5 back.
It was my insta bet. Stephen Shea, prior to the season started, say and I just took his word for it without looking, but it ended up hitting. Take his long run every week, he's gonna hit it.
Yeah.
gonna get.
It ended up being like 20 yards compared to like the rest of NFL were like 14 yards. So his was way higher than the rest, but he would still hit it every week.
Yeah, but like the Lions, Hutchinson, sure thing.
He's a freak.
Panay Sewell, once they got him, you're like, no, don't go for a cornerback in the top 5. That drives me crazy.
Yeah, I'm very eager to see how they try to build this line. Are they sticking with the tackles and they're going to go all interior? Are they going to, boot Jenkins? Because I think the only sure thing, right, is Darnell Wright. So.
Yeah, and it's like, what's his ceiling?
Yeah.
That's another thing where it's like typically if you take a tackle that high, you plant him at left tackle. Like automatically put him on the not the blind side is like, is that a red flag a little bit? But
I saw Jalen Carter at name drop. I saw Jalen Carter at media night at the Super Bowl. It's one of the bigger humans I've ever seen football wise because he was standing next to other defensive tackles and ends. They were in the group, and he was towering over them, and he was thicker, and he's not fat.
No.
He's like fat jacked.
Yeah.
That's the term.
Yeah.
Where it's bulky and round, but there's just a lot of muscle in it.
Yeah, you don't want to run into that guy.
And I don't know what I remember about that draft because Jalen Carter fell because of off-field stuff.
Right.
He got the speeding thing, right?
Yeah.
I think it killed a guy.
Oh, that's
And the Bears could have had him, and so that's it.
Yeah, I don't blame him on that.
I don't blame him.
A lot of teams had the same.
I also
mindset.
think him going to Philly where they have the culture to kind of keep him in line as a young player versus the Bears with Eberflus was such a disaster.
But that's what I hate. But that's bullshit, though.
I don't think that is. I think that's a fair point.
I'm not saying he's wrong, but that's bullshit. Listen, if you want to say we're cursed when it comes to quarterbacks and this would have been Mahomes in Chicago, we don't have that for other players. We're doing that defensive lineman now. Like,
I know.
Like we're a fucking defensive team. Like that shouldn't be a thing. Like we'd have ruined him too. We shouldn't be ruined.
Also, a fair rebuttal, but I don't blame the Bears for this specific.
No,
incident.
I'm not. Like,
I am pretty convinced in my head that it would not have worked out here.
It may not have, but
Because you think about all the things that are going wrong in that locker room. You got the defensive coordinator would have been fired, week 2 or 3 into Jalen Carter's career, and it's just like the whole. It's been a mess for minimum 2 years.
But there is one thing, a bigger picture thing, and I've talked about this before on the show I do at The Score. There's a general belief in failure as a Chicago sports fan, like the banana peel. If you go back when the Bears at the end of the season, go back to that Green Bay game where they had the field goal they missed, or was it blocked, right?
Blocked. We were Dave and I were the front row, had a great look at it.
I was sitting there because the Bears had just lost to Washington, right? That was the ugly Washington loss.
Yep.
So they're about to beat Green Bay, and I'm sitting there as they're getting ready to line up, and I'm starting to do my producer thing, like, man, this is going to be like a cleanup on aisle 5. Eberflus buys another month with this win. They make this field goal. It wasn't even that long of a field goal, 42. Yeah. And when they get ready to line up, and when the kick got blocked, I'm like, oh, yes.
Of course.
That's what's
I knew exactly how that was going to go.
I probably would have bet.
There wasn't a doubt in my mind that
I didn't think it'd get blocked.
I thought
he was going to get. He was going to.
I thought it was going to be fucked up some way, somehow.
Because you can't beat the Packers. I mean, any other team they would beat, but the Packers would be 2 wins.
But I thought the same thing week 18.
Yeah.
Me too.
And it happened.
But weren't you surprised when it happened?
I
That they
was
won?
stunned.
I wasn't for that one because I know it's
nothing
the
on
Packers.
the line.
There was nothing. Yeah, there was. All it did was kind of hurt them.
But still, though, when DJ Moore fumbled and you have a chance to kick a field, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
If you want to go back, 2016 Cubs World Series, I'm in Connecticut. It's pretty late after the rain delay, and remember they get back on the field, and the Cubs were trying to win it. Zobrist gets a hit and all that stuff. When before Zobrist got the hit, the Davis home run, the Raji Davis home run. I'm alone in my living room in Connecticut. My daughters and wife are in bed. They couldn't stay up that late. It's late night, and I'm sitting there just grinding. I'm like Leo Mazzoni, the old pitching coach, just grinding. I mean, I've had a stomach ache for 10 days around this Cubs team because in my lifetime I just wanted one World Series. When Raji Davis hits the home run to tie it up, I sat back in my chair. I go, oh, that's how it happens. Yeah. That's how my heart's getting ripped. I didn't see.
Raji Davis.
It kind of felt like a comforting, like going back to your old hometown. Like, yeah, this is what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So when the last play of the game, when Rizzo catches it, I was completely shocked that they won. Like when he held it and he got it, it's like landing on the moon. If you see that clip of Bill Murray, when he catches the ball, Bill goes like this. That's what I was as a lifetime Chicago and Cubs fan. I was like, they won it, but not just they won it. I was like, oh my God, I didn't think for a second they would win this World Series. I went to games 2, 3, and 4, 3, 4, and 5 here, and it was like a zombie walk after those losses. It was miserable.
Yeah,
5 was great, but I never let myself believe that they could actually win it until Rizzo held the ball up and put it in his pocket.
You are right, though, that ground out to Chris Bryant there at the end. Like, you play it through again. It's like, was that supposed to happen?
Yeah.
Like, in some universe.
It's got to drag on longer.
Some universe, someone took their hand off the button for
even that ball off the bat, you're like, this is going to squib. Like, it does not, like,
Watch the replay. Bryant slips. Chris Bryant puts his foot down and kind of slips his back foot.
It does.
And he throws it. I'm like, no. And then when Rizzo holds the ball, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And then I have to follow this up with my lifelong policy of never letting Anthony Rizzo pay for a drink. So I would if I ever retire, I'm just going to follow him around and pay his bartender. Don't you think that's a good use of my time?
Get in line.
Yeah. I mean,
did he just retire?
Yeah.
Technically still with the Yankees.
I heard that's not true, by the way.
Okay.
So I don't know. I could be.
I mean, he's in his waning days. What is he, 35 or whatever now?
Yeah.
But that guy walks on water, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
He does.
Legend
in this city,
yeah. 44 will be flying up there.
I had this idea, Eddie, for a Cubs, actually for you guys, I thought it'd be fun for you, either you to shoot or me or someone, where you see, let's say it was you walking around Chicago and you see Anthony Rizzo at a bar and you walk up and pay for his beer. And then a month later, you see him at the airport and it's with his family and you pay for his whole tab. And then he's at like some high-end restaurant with like 20 people and you pay for his whole tab. And then you're at some place and he's just like the fourth one in the clip. He's about to pay and you dive over a table full of people, get cut up in shards and hand some guy like a 20.
Yeah.
And,
I got this.
And you never let Anthony Rizzo pay for it.
Hey, you're right.
That'd be a good bit.
You're right. That would be funny.
Yeah.
That would be good. So going back to the draft though, you're a big draft guy. Is anyone in this room stunned if we take Genty?
Yes.
You're stunned?
That's irresponsible.
I'm still pretty stunned, and even though they did it with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm stunned. I'm not saying I want it to happen.
They know the Lions were different when they the Bears know what their weakness is, and it is that front.
What if they're like an interior lineman in the second round and they sign 2 guys?
Ashton Jeanty is a great college back, but the height, his best only works with a decent offensive line. So if he comes here next year, he'll get murdered.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, well, how would you waste a pick on him? No, it wasn't a waste of pick. Isaiah Pacheco's a 7th rounder.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt was home 3 months ago watching TV. Running backs, even Saquon Barkley, it's working out now, but it's still not the right pick in the top 5, I don't think.
Yeah.
And Saquon is upper echelon of college running backs. I think you have to be disciplined and ignore running backs in the first round of the draft and never really consider it.
Yeah.
Look at the Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they took as a luxury pick one year at the end of the first round. Didn't work out. Isaiah Pacheco, 7th rounder, works out. Isaiah Pacheco makes $850,000.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
And they never have to pay him.
But they're going to get another running back.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to cut Swift this year, at least. His dead cap's like $8 million or something like that.
It is.
So
It's 8.
And it's like you wonder if there is like a Jahmyr Gibbs light, just like a speedy,
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Gibbs is like pretty big physically.
6'1".
Yeah.
Yeah. But like
Genty's not, right?
he's 5'9".
Smaller, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think
like
he has
Maurice
that.
Jones-Drew kinda.
No one has that Gibbs speed though, too. Like Genty doesn't have that. I like that other back, the North Carolina kid, Marion Hampton, too.
Yes, he's tough. I watched it.
Yeah.
He's like a full service back.
Yeah.
Tough guy.
Because Swift, like, he's probably the only disappointed person that we signed Ben Johnson, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Swift is probably like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Bears, don't they have 2 picks in the 5th round or something like that?
They have 2 2s. They have 10, 39, and 41 as it sits right now.
No 4th or something like that.
Yeah, I think
no
you're
3rd or
right.
4th. But take 2 running backs in the 5th round and let those guys battle it out. They're each going to get paid like $600,000.
Because I don't know what you do with Roshan. He doesn't really fit either of those molds.
He's like he's a football player.
Yeah.
To me, he's a football. So you have him on kickoff. He's a core special teams guy. And if it's short yardage,
But I'm just saying in regards to Johnson's offense.
Yeah.
You know, like if he wants to be a 3rd-string running back and be a special team,
yeah.
sure.
You don't think he can do some Monty stuff?
I don't.
No?
I don't think he's that good out of the
I don't think he's that good either.
as far as
But
catching the ball goes.
All right, I got a philosophical question for the room. All Bears fans, right, in this room. If the Lions made the Super Bowl, would you have rooted for them?
no.
Really?
I don't
they
care
playing?
about him, but
They're playing the Chiefs? But they're
Yeah.
playing the Bills. That's immediate now. Like,
Okay, so let's say they're playing the Bengals. Don't you root for the Lions the same reason you'd hope people rooted for the Cubs in 2016?
No.
I have a hard time rooting for anybody in the division, no matter what.
I could see it. Clearly not Green Bay and likely not Minnesota, but the Lions are like the younger brother never won any games.
yeah, I wouldn't root for them, but I wouldn't actively root against them.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd be pretty like,
If they were playing the Chiefs, I might root for them.
It's like feel good story.
Yeah, it is. And
The Bears are nowhere. It's not like the Bears were close and the Lions ruined it for them.
Totally. And it is. They're a very easy team to like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They got the right coach. They play mean. Like that's my kind of a football team.
that's what's kind of funny is you always talk about sports. It's like you're essentially rooting for laundry. It's opposite in this case.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we like Dan Campbell.
Right.
See, I think you
Right?
guys. I'm starting to convince you. You might root for them. a
Yeah,
little
like
more.
I like David Montgomery. You know,
I love mine.
I mean, I don't think root's the correct word.
I kind of hate everybody except for us.
That's exactly.
So,
I
I
don't
got a
think
lot of
one-
hate in my
Sounds like
heart.
a name of a show.
Like
Yeah.
you were talking about how you want because you grew up on the south suburbs, south side, and you wanted when Rajai Davis hit that home run in 2016, it was for a moment the best moment of my life.
he's not kidding.
Yeah, he's
And
not joking.
I was watching that alone on my couch on Augusta Boulevard, and I swear to God, I jumped off my couch and I had a 40-inch vertical on that in that moment. I was MJ for a split second.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nothing I could ever duplicate, but I was like touching the clouds. I jumped out of my seat screaming so well because I do not want any of my friends to experience joy in sport ever under any circumstance, unless they're rooting for the team.
And like hate makes sports great.
That's
Like,
exactly my point.
You have to have some.
Yeah, that's why I'm the hockey guy here, but like that Four Nations where they started that USA Canada game with 3 fights, I'm like, I will fight if there's a Canadian near me, I will also fight him too.
Eddie,
Like, I love
That's
rivalries.
your civic duty.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a story. This is an old one. When I started working on the Dan Patrick Show, been a long time. I took a break for a while and did some other stuff, but early in my days, we used to have Bill Murray on, not regularly, but here and there. Dan and Bill always had a good relationship. And so the Cubs 04, they're in the playoffs, and Bill Murray's filming a movie called Steve Zissou, The Life Aquatic. It was some movie that he was in like the Galapagos Islands, or I don't know where he was, somewhere in Italy. And so he came on the show, and I picked up the phone, and he goes, I go, where are you calling in from? He goes, I'm in like Malta or something. And he goes, yeah, I got a sat phone. And I go, oh, are you going to be able to watch the Cubs? He goes, no, there's no way to watch the Cubs. I'm like, how is that possible? He goes, I don't know. We can't get the Cubs games. And he was out of his mind miserable about it. Yeah. He's like talking to me about it. And he goes, do me a favor. Can you call me and give me Cubs updates? And I'm like, he goes, well, I don't even have the number on this phone. This is Bill Murray 20 years ago. And I go, he goes, give me your number. So I give him my cell phone number. This seems like a bit. I feel like I'm getting played like a setup. Yeah. And I'm in my crappy apartment in New Haven, Connecticut, working on the Dan Patrick Show, sitting there by myself, eating like ramen noodles and drinking Miller Lite. And all of a sudden my phone rings and it's a 011, some number. Yeah, Paul, Bill Murray, what's the score? He called every hour on the hour to get the Cubs score. And when it was going good, I would tell him it's going good. I had to tell him about the Bartman thing. And it was, you talk about best moments of your life. How much I love Bill Murray is equal to how much I love the Cubs. And I'm getting bothered by it right now. Bill goes, where are we at? By the time he started, he wouldn't even give my name anymore. He's just like, yeah, where are we at? I'm like, Bill, we're at this. And I told him like Juan Pierre this. And I told him what happened. I was trying to tell different people what happened. The phone would just go silent for like 30 seconds. He goes, could you repeat that? And it was, he probably called 10 times over the course of 5-6 days. And it should have been a great story to tell. It should be like on their way to the World Series, Bill Murray called.
That's like telling your dad that
your mom cheated.
Yeah.
That's mom cheated.
And dad's dead.
Yeah. Hey, Dad, your dad's dead. My grandpa died.
It's not the most positive story in the moment.
Yeah.
Man, how did he?
But like, I want to like.
I don't even know how do you?
Some asshole in the stands wearing fucking headphones and a turtleneck.
Yeah.
Reached over and Moises Alou wanted to kill him.
I feel like I blocked a lot of it out, but like I remember calling. Didn't Kerry Wood hit a home run in Game 7?
Yes,
he did. Yep,
he killed it.
I was pounding on, and I'm like, I hope Bill Murray calls back, and I don't remember if he did or not for Game 7 because he was pretty upset. But when Kerry Wood hit that home run, it was a similar thing. Like, this doesn't happen. Then, of course, it went the other way.
I have a hard time believing Bill Murray can't shut down production for the Cubs.
You'd think so.
Playoff games.
But he said, there's no TVs or there's no satellite.
This is prior to smartphones and all that.
Yeah,
no internet.
Before social
it's not
media.
like you could just throw on the radio and even put it on speakerphone. Probably.
Yeah.
No illegal streams.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
It was the next day's newspaper. That's where Sports Center and shit. But
so you guys live here. One more topic I want to get over with you guys, because whenever I come back here, I eat a lot of food. I try to eat at the places I don't go. There seems to be a lot of anger around, thin crust pizza and deep dish pizza and all that stuff in Chicago. Do you guys just kind of ignore it? Because I have friends who visit Chicago. Like, where should I go? I'm like, where you should go for a visit? You should go to Pequod's or you should go to Lou Malnati's, because that's the experience that you're interested in.
Right.
Yeah,
and then I also explained to them, if you live here, you may get Pequod's or Lou Malnati's or whatever once a year.
True.
It's like a different, mix it up. You usually whatever. We call it thin crust. It's outside. Where do you guys stand on that?
Yeah, I think what you said is absolutely correct.
Accurate.
Like, someone wants to come here, it's like, let's go.
Try it.
And in turn, I think I get it more than once a year because you're just showing people so many times.
It's like going to Philadelphia and you try the tourist spots.
Yeah,
sure.
And then you find out, the one 6 blocks away was better.
Yeah. But I think if
Pat and Gino's, you go go there if you're from Philly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's one of those. I don't know.
It's a lot of anger from people around here, though.
Yeah, because we get and then people call it casserole, and they like take shots at it. I'm like, but it's like it's a novelty. Yeah. I actually wonder how the pure deep dish places even stay in business sometimes, because like the locals don't eat it that much. So like, who is keeping Pequod's afloat if people aren't getting?
I stay over by Pequod's where I'm staying these days, and it seems to be always busy.
I know
it is.
It is, but I don't know any.
I think it's a lot of visitors.
Point.
I think but I think more people eat it more than you realize.
There's enough people in the area. It's concentrated
for sure.
Population enough where you're going to have the people on there 1 year where, hey, let's go to Pequod's tonight. You know?
Do you guys know Pat's Pizza, 2700 North Lincoln?
Oh, yeah. I used to live right at Lincoln, Racine, and Diversey, and that was my go-to spot. It is outstanding. Summer pizza. I could crush an entire 18-inch pizza. It's the thinnest paper crust.
It's like an appetizer pizza.
Yeah.
You could just pop a small and eat it like when you're reading a book.
You could hear the crisp from 2 blocks away. It's a real crisp.
That was one of my favorite White Sox Dave bits, is that on a Saturday or Sunday, he would take a picture of this giant pizza and then like eat the whole pizza and then post how many steps he took that day to be like 300 steps.
Yeah.
That's be like 3.
At 11 a.m. 11 a.m.
Oh, it's like back and forth to the bathroom. Yeah.
I get an 18-inch pizza, and typically 18-inch you're not eating on your own, but
typically.
Pat's, they only go up to 16-inch, and it's so thin it's like a frozen pizza. You can just crush it on your own. But I'll get an 18-inch pizza at 11 a.m. I'll eat that until I can't eat anymore, and then throughout the rest of the day, I'll just pick here and there. And
I went to Pat's on Friday with the family. They have this. I'm throwing out the mention there. They have a grilled octopus appetizer. I'll buy it for you guys. I just want you to have it. It's so good.
Really?
All their food's good.
Yeah.
But sop it up.
One thing, they have a grilled appetizer though. Grilled octopus. Sorry.
Yeah.
They got a full menu.
Full menu.
Yeah.
Never knew that. I thought it was pizza only.
That's public service.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh, I love grilled octopus. So.
It's perfect. Yeah. I describe it as summer pizza because it's not so much cheese and grease where you just feel miserable. It's like nice and light, and it's awesome.
There was a guy walking out. He's picking up his own pizza at Pat's, and the other night it was probably 4 degrees, and he brought his own pizza carrier, like those.
I love that move. Yeah.
So he walks up, and he was like a 60-year-old dude, and I was like, this guy can't be a delivery guy. And I go, did you bring your own? It's like that Kevlar interior.
Yeah.
I go, did you bring your own pizza carrier? He goes, oh yeah. I'm like,
I need to meet
Where do you
this
even
guy.
buy those?
I don't know.
Do they have them on Amazon?
I'm sure you can get them on Amazon.
Last night I was walking around because I enjoy the cold, and I saw people going into Lou Malnati's by my corner, and I'm like, you walk that thing 2 blocks, it's ice cold.
Sure.
Yeah.
He signed up to be a DoorDash delivery driver and quit after 1 day just to get
Kept the box.
Yeah, that's it.
Respect.
That's what he did.
That's a pro move that I respect the hell out of.
Get them for $15 on Amazon.
Yeah.
That's a 4-banger.
Yeah. You're working with that one.
Yeah, you could fit 4 in there.
We're just doing public service.
That's great. Yeah, you're right.
So you live out in Connecticut now. Obviously born and raised here. Have you been to East Coast since college?
A little bit. I lived in Chicago right after college. I lived by DePaul, and I worked at Pro Football Weekly for a few years. And then when I went out to the East Coast, I worked at CBS News and CBS Sports. I was like one of Jim Nance's researchers, one of those blue shirt guys in the background back in the day. Worked there for about 6 years in New York City. There was a job opening at College Game Day for ESPN, and I mean that's awesome. And I worked 2 years of College Game Day, and then ESPN radio, college football, and pro football shows, a little bit of each, because College Game Day is only 6 months a year. Mm-hmm. And Dan Patrick's producer left. I knew Dan a little bit, mostly from the hallways.
Okay.
But I grew up on Dan Patrick, and his producer and I got along. His producer left to go to San Diego, and he recommended me, and he gave me a heads up. And one day in the hallway, here comes Dan Patrick, IFB in the ear, Sports Center script, full Dan Patrick. And he goes, hey, Paul. And I'm like, hey, man. And I knew it was coming, but even though I was having that little out of body, the little 17-year-old Paul Pabst at Marian Catholic. And he goes, hey, you got a minute? We talked. He asked me if I'd be interested in producing his radio show. And it was like a nice conversation, but I'd heard some stuff, erroneously, by the way. And so I was hesitant. And so I was a little hesitant, and he sensed it. And then he goes, where do you live? I told him New Haven. And he goes, I live in Milford. I'm like, yeah, I know where your house is. It's a big one. And
See it from my house.
He goes, why don't you come by? Yeah. And we polished off a 12-pack and talked. And he goes, let's partner up. And he said the word partner up, not work for me. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was cool. Next day he walks into management and said, I'd love Paul to produce the show. And 3 days later, I'm working on the show.
How long did it take you to have, because I think of it as the Danettes, right?
Yeah.
Like the 4 of you guys. How long did it take to get into that and then build the rapport with all of you? Because you all kind of had almost like a different role that just kind of worked somehow. Yeah,
so I started with Dan. 2 weeks later, we had Todd Fritzy from the show. Mm-hmm. 3 years later, Patrick Seton O'Connor. And then Andrew Perloff McLovin, he joined 4 different ways. I'm the content producer. I'm like the air traffic controller to Dan's pilot. The best way to describe it. Mm-hmm. I help him land the planes on time. Everyone claps for the pilot. Yeah. That's fine with me, as long as the planes land. Seton O'Connor handles a lot of the business stuff. He's really sharp at that. He handles all the sponsor stuff. Fritzy's in charge of booking the guests. Okay. And is relentless. Andrew Perloff, we kind of discovered McLovin at Sports Illustrated. He helped Dan do his weekly page in Sports Illustrated. And we didn't actually invite him to be part of the team. He just started driving up, which I got to give him credit. You kids out there, if you don't get offered a job, just drive to that job and show up. Yeah. Perloff just came up one day and said, I want to sit in. I'm like, this guy just drove from Brooklyn, like 9 minutes. Yeah. Never left. And we loved him. He left to take his own show with Maggie and Perloff. And then we added Marvin Prince, who was one of our camera tech guys, who's just a funny dude. And that's kind of how it all came to be. But we are 4 different roles of what we do on the show.
Yeah.
I remember that stuck out to me for sure when I was 23. You were kind of breaking everything down to me. He's telling me stories, which is awesome to hear because obviously this is what I wanted to do. And you're like, the one thing that sticks out about Dan was that he was always like, hey, like there's a Sports Illustrated party. He's like, yeah, well, I got 4 as well.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just get me. Like all my guys.
Yeah.
Dan gets invited to lots of stuff, and he always says it's a 5-banger. We're rolling in with 5 guys. Like back in the day, you wouldn't do that. We went to a Playboy party once, and Dan goes, it's 5 or nothing, and they gave him a hard time. He goes, let's go to an Irish pub. And he turned around and went to an Irish pub. The Knicks invited to us a game once, and they invited the 5 of us. Then Dan couldn't go, and Dan goes, don't tell him I'm not going. I go, I know, Dan, I know not to tell him you're not going, because those tickets would have been rescinded.
Yeah.
It happens.
So much so that he got you into That's My Boy, which we talked about out there.
Yeah. Dan's been in a lot of Sandler movies, and Sandler comes on a lot, and That's My Boy was this movie filmed in Boston, and they asked to be Dan's camera crew. He's like a reality TV host, and it was fun because just the experience to be on a set, to see a real set, and like there's a director, but Sandler's kind of directing things.
Okay.
Like there's not anything going on without the big guy's thumbs up. And then Andy Samberg was there, who's a comedian who he knows sports, but I don't think he knew who we were. He may have known Dan, but I don't think so. And then Susan Sarandon, the actress, she had no idea who we were. She didn't know who Dan Patrick was. She didn't know the 4 of us.
She did Bull Durham.
Yeah, and we love
Susan. No sports.
We love Susan Sarandon. We're actually in a scene. We're in a room this size, kind of running through the scene, and it's in an old prison. And there's a lot of rules on a movie set that I'd never heard of. I've never done this, and so technically, they tell the extras to never speak, never engage the lead actors. You're like this bottle. You sit there and wait to be directed. Like let's say you were an extra in a movie. You wouldn't walk up to Adam Sandler, hey man, how's it? No, you're gone. Like you're gone in a second. But we were extras that were brought in by Adam Sandler, and Susan Sarandon didn't know that. So we're standing there getting ready to do the scene. There's a lot of waiting around, and Sandler and that's me and McLovin, Andrew Perloff, and we're just standing there waiting to our things. And we're kind of keeping our mouth shut and keeping focus because we don't want to be the guys who screw up the shot. And Sandler just goes, hey, Paul, the Knicks, are they ever going to get it together? And I'm like, well, they got to get rid of this guy. And Susan Sarandon is looking at us, and she goes, why? You could tell, she's like, why are the extras talking to Adam? Because that's a clear violation. Yeah. But then Sandler's like hitting me, Fritzy in the gut. He's like, Fritzy, you're a Knicks guy. Yeah. And Sandler's talking with us. And you could tell Susan Sarandon was like, this is not proper. And we were there for 2 days. I have no idea if she knew who we were or why we were talking to Sandler. But it's fun to see them work.
Sandler seems like just the coolest guy on earth.
He is. It's almost unbelievable. He puts family and friends in movies. He put us up for 3 nights in Boston at this super duper hotel. He let us be in another movie called Pixels, and it was filmed in Toronto. They flew us up. We get to go. We shoot the movie. It takes forever, but they're all like, "Oh, it takes forever." We're like, I don't want it to end.
Yeah,
we're the opposite.
Right.
Yeah. So the movie's done shooting. We finished it right before midnight in Toronto. And it's like 11:45, and they had to finish before midnight, or they had to pay a whole bunch more money to the crew. So at 11:52, it's like, that's it, that's the day, and everyone starts putting stuff away. So Sandler's there, and Sandler has a couple of guys. He's always got a couple of guys with him that are his like right hand men, and then the guys from the Dan Patrick Show. He goes, hey, we're gonna hit this restaurant and go get some steaks and some drinks. And I'm like, it's 12:17, it's 12 a.m. in Toronto, and I know it's a big town, but steakhouses don't stay open at 12. And I actually said, will they be open? He goes, they'll be open. I'm like, they're open for you.
Fair, yeah.
So we ordered this. Sandler brings us to a steakhouse. The place is closed, and it's a table of maybe 11 people. In walks the director, producer, Ivan Reitman. He did like all these movies back in the day, if you look him up. And it's his steakhouse. Then 10 minutes later, in walks Dan Aykroyd. And I almost shat myself because as a child of SNL, he didn't tell us. He wanted to see our faces, Sandler. And Aykroyd is going to be in the movie the next day, so he just was staying in the hotel like next door. And he goes, hey, Danny. This is Adam Sandler. I look up, it's Dan Aykroyd. I'm like, holy. To me, that's someone you never expect to meet.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoever your favorite is, or one of your favorites. And it was neat to hear. I just sat there watching, listening to their stories, and soaking it in. The other guy, though, we've had on the show a lot is Will Ferrell. He's so nice you actually can't believe it. Like right
He's
now,
an asshole.
He would walk up and say hi to your security guy and say, I'm Will Ferrell. He'd say hi to the guys all through the bullpen, not just Eddie, not just Cat or whatever. And so a bunch of years ago, I'll try to make this short, we were going to go to Ireland for Notre Dame versus Navy.
Yep.
And this is 2017. We talked about it. COVID happens. It gets canceled or pushed back. But we were on the show talking about it like as a concept. Dan's like, we should go to Notre Dame Navy in Ireland, go to Guinness, go around. And we're like, yeah. The hotline rings, and not everyone has a hotline number. And I pick up the phone. It's, yeah, Paul, Will. Yeah, I'm in on the Ireland thing. Put me on with you. I'm like, Will, who? He goes, Ferrell. Yeah, I got it. I'm in. Put him on hold, and Dan has no idea. It's Will Ferrell calling in. And Will goes, yeah, the Ireland thing, Dan, I'm in. I'll pay my own way. Let me know what the schedule is. I'm going to clear my schedule. COVID goes away. They rescheduled the game for 2 years ago, I guess, almost 2 years ago. And we call Will, and we're like, are you still interested? He goes, oh, I'm in. He goes, don't worry about it. We're like, do we need to get you? He goes, don't worry about it. I'm a big boy. I'll get my plane. I'll get it. He flew he didn't get his own jet. He flew commercial. And he rescheduled some stuff. He had to reschedule some stuff. He told me later,
stuff.
Yeah.
Like movies being shot, and he's out for 4 days. And they don't shoot the movie without Will there. And so we did 3 days of shows in Dublin, Ireland, leading up to Notre Dame Navy. Will Ferrell shows up, and he's wearing a Scandinavian yellow tracksuit. He's 6'5".
Yeah.
He comes out, and he hosted the show with us. He wasn't next to Dan. He sat with the Danettes.
Okay.
So it's me, Will, Seaton, Fritzy, McLovin. And we went out to dinner. We had fun. We went bar hopping. And people lose their shit when they see Will Ferrell. Because if you think about it, if you're 8, he's famous. And if you're 80, he's famous. Because Elf.
Yeah.
And everyone's seen Elf.
Yep.
And then you got Saturday Night Live. Then you have Old School.
Yeah.
So he walks down a street. I've never been with anyone where I got that much reaction. Even Sandler, because...
Really? Because
he's so big too. You can't.
Yeah,
miss
that's
he's 6'5", and Sandler's 6 foot. He could hide out. He looks, Will 6'5", and also you can't overestimate Elf. 10-year-olds know who he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's true.
So we're walking down the street, bar hopping, and this 9-year-old girl starts screaming "Buddy" and running with her little arms open, and Will, instead of oh boy, here's my security, I got to run in here. He turned around and he goes, Buddy's here. And the whole street, it's I wish I had a video of it, because the whole street's almost teared up. He goes, Buddy's here. And he gave her a big hug. And she goes, what are you doing here? He goes, well, I get around a lot. Buddy gets around a lot. And he pretended to be Buddy for 30 seconds for her. The mom and dad are crying.
Yeah.
And it could have been one of those things where he could have just darted into the restaurant.
Yeah.
30 seconds
I'm sure
earlier.
99% of people.
I would have done that.
Yeah.
Snot-nosed kids.
So we're in a pub.
That movie was 20 years ago.
We're in a pub, and there's a little thing in Irish pubs called a snug. It's the front of it.
Yep.
Looks like a phone booth that holds 4 people.
Yeah.
And we're maybe 6 of us are in there, and it's kind of a hideout. So Will could kind of have some beers and not be,
mobbed. Yeah.
Mobbed, I guess. And he didn't really care. But then the word started getting around the bar that Will Ferrell's there, and you could tell, it felt like they were about to get in there. Will goes, I'll be right back. He leaves the snug. He walks behind the bar, and the owner and the place goes out of their minds. It's a Saturday night in Dublin, and Will Ferrell, 6'5", walks back there, and he puts his arms up, and the whole place goes crazy. He goes, next round's on me, and he starts pouring drinks and handing out drinks for about 5 minutes. He's take pictures. He goes, let's do a group shot. Everyone take their cameras out. He stands up on the bar, 6'5", and he took a shot. He goes, all right, thank you guys. I'm going to go hang with my boys. And it took him 5 minutes to make 300 people's nights.
For sure.
They'll never
awesome. What a great way to handle that, too.
Yes, because he took control of it.
Right.
And he darts back, and he didn't say one word about it. He goes, all right, where were we? Well, you were, and you're like, wow, that's a professional.
Yeah. Veteran. Yeah. Veteran move.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Who was your favorite of your recurring athlete guests? Because I feel like Reggie Miller has some great stories.
Oh, Barkley's the 1 seed.
Yeah.
He'll always give it to you.
Yeah.
He will say whatever he wants to say at all times.
Matt Harvey.
I love that, man.
Matt Harvey's situation. I like Dale Earnhardt Jr. I know NASCAR's not the biggest, but he's just a great guest.
Mm-hmm.
John Smoltz is just a fantastic analyst. I learned something.
So smart. Yeah.
So smart. Yeah. But there's so many, it's hard to
go
through it.
Go through it. Paulie, I know you got to run. Thank you, dude. This was fun.
That was
I
great.
could hang all day here.
We got to do it again.
Have you ever met Shooter McGavin? I'm blanking on his real name.
No. McDonald? Christopher McDonald?
Yeah.
McDonald.
I don't think I've ever met him.
No.
I don't know.
Because that your story about Buddy the Elf reminded me. I saw something on social media one time that this guy's like, yeah, I just met Shooter McGavin in the airport. This is how the story went. So he's like, hey, I'm walking, going from terminal to terminal or whatever. And he's like, hey, that's Shooter McGavin. And then he goes, hey, Mr. McDonald, can I get a picture? And the guy goes, man, get out of here. Like, I don't want to take your pictures. Like, that was 20 years ago.
I haven't seen that many bad things like
Well,
that.
hold on. And then he turns around and looks at the guy and he goes, shooter. And it was
it's like a double.
Yeah. He set it up.
Yeah.
He set it up. And then
A couple of quick ones. Keanu Reeves is just as cool as you think. Billy
heard
Bob
that, yeah.
Thornton, everyone thought he was going to be an asshole when he walked in. He was nice to everybody.
Awesome.
I couldn't believe it. The last famous person I hung out with, I was at a Bears game about 3 months ago, and I walked from the Bears game to here with Eddie, and Eddie was like, Eddie could barely walk down the street. It was funny to see Eddie in college. I'm going to get emotional right now. To see Eddie in college, then to see what you guys and him are all doing here, and to walk from the Bears game, people are like, Eddie, my man, and they're screaming Eddie's name out like he's a rock star. And so it was pretty cool to see, and I'm glad to be back here sometimes and see what Eddie's doing and all you guys are doing.
No one ran into my arms like I was Buddy the Elf, though.
It was close, though.
Not yet. He's been doing it for a long time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks,
You're
Paul.
the man, Paul. What your show on Saturdays, right?
Yeah, on Tailgate. But yeah, that's actually we're done for the season.
Oh, okay, all right,
So
all right.
I'll be
Anything else you
off-season
want to
off.
say?
No, I got nothing to plug except for I'll probably be at Pat's Pizza, appearing at Pat's Pizza Friday, 7:30 to 8:30.
You see a guy alone eating the octopus. Just
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Paulie. All right, that's it, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Monday. We'll see you then.